Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Nicholas Harvey.
We do. It's such a fun interview.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We talked to him about a whole bunch of different things. He's a digital nomad. So we touched on that near the end, and he collaborates. And we talked about how he does that and a lot about writing and craft as well.
We do. He collaborates in his writing, but he also has a podcast called the Two Authors Podcast. And he does that with his pal Doug, and they write together as well. So, yeah, it was a great interview.
Yeah. So that's coming up. I think there's lots of good information in that. We got into his background a little bit. He was in racing, the racing world, which we didn't know. So we get into that. And
that was great.
Yeah, talked about a lot of stuff. So I think it'll be really good. So what is going on with you this week?
Well, this week, we're recording this on Monday. I'm starting my last 2 weeks of swimming lessons, so that's good. But it's a rainy day, so I don't even know if I'm going to get. I got one in this morning, and and then this afternoon I don't know. But I put my book Homecoming King. Sorry, for free on Friday, the 4th, and the intent was to send out an email. Y'all, I wish you could see me. I'm so frustrated, but I worked it out. But basically, I hadn't sent out an email in a while. And when I got onto MailerLite, it said that my domain had been unverified, and my domain name and everything, that the DMARC, is it DMARC?
DMARC, yeah.
All of that. And when I went in, it would not let me re-verify it. Don't know why. I have no idea why. I tried. Then I tried to change the email, thinking, oh no. Then the email that was set up, Google Workspace did not recognize it. It wasn't even there. So then I tried to change the email, which it let me change the email, like create a new one, and I could create one, except Google Workspace wanted to verify that email through the original email that no longer existed. It was a nightmare.
It's so like catch-22 of email verification.
And then Google Workspace said they couldn't help me because I'd bought the domain through Squarespace. I've dealt with Squarespace before, and you cannot speak to a person. It's, like I dealt with them about 6 or 8 months ago, and my son-in-law did too. We tried for more than a week, and we never could get to a person. So I knew that wasn't going to work. So I tried it all by myself on Friday, all day. That's all I did. So no writing, no nothing. We didn't have any plans for the 4th. So I could have gotten a lot done, got nothing done. And then, so Saturday I called my son-in-law, and I told him what was happening, because he helped me set up my website on Squarespace. And I really much was of the opinion that I just needed to add a user to Google Workspace, but that was going to cost me money. And I was trying not to do that, but we came to the conclusion that was the only way.
Just to get it done.
So I added a new user, and I got it done and sent out the email. And the subject line was boobs as a flotation device. And I have like a 44% open rate.
There you go.
Pretty happy about that. The free book has done well. I think it's 31 in the store or something like that, in the free store, which is good, because it's really just been an email and a free book seat. That's all I've done, because I didn't really have time to set up newsletter swaps. And honestly, I don't feel like I'm qualified to do a newsletter swap right now, since I hadn't sent out an email in so long. I didn't want to do that. But anyway, so that's really kind of work-wise all that's going on. I was hoping I'd finish this draft this weekend. I got nothing done, no writing. So I'm back at it, hopefully by next week, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard. Summertime is just difficult, because there's a lot going on, and it feels like you're treading water. Like you're literally treading water all day.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Of course, then the devastation that's happened here in Texas, that's been very distracting too.
Yeah.
And hard. And
yeah, our hearts go out to anyone, anytime there's a flooding or natural disaster, especially if it's flooding. It's just like hits really close to home. So
yeah,
same
I mean,
thing.
not just the kids, which is just horrible, but I mean, like whole families are just gone, and it's just horrible. And I'm so sorry and so sad. And so, but that's been distracting too. I've been going back and forth to my phone trying to get information.
Keep up. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's me. That's all that's going on with me.
Okay. Well, I'm doing still working on a couple of projects, but I feel like I'm inching them along, going to get one of them across the finish line soon. I spent most of last week optimizing my store because I'm getting ready to run ads. And I thought, I might as well take at least a couple of days, which of course turned into a week, to make sure I have all the little things set up correctly. And so I've changed to a new frequently bought together and pop-up app for the store. So I've got all that set up so I can do the frequently bought together. It gives you a suggested upsell, downsell when you check out. But I finally got all that going and I'm very happy with it. But, I had to let go of the one I had. I had a frequently bought together app and I was like, oh, if I take this out, then I've got to redo everything.
Yeah, I know.
But
I know.
It didn't have the upsell, downsell on the original one. So switched. I'm using Sell Easy in case anybody's interested. And it's working great now that I've got it all transferred over. So spent quite a few days doing that. And the letters are coming along. The custom illustrations are almost done. I finally have this routine down. I've got one artist that I'm working with and it takes about a week to get one back. And so I think I've got like 2 more and I'm really close to being done with that. So all that's coming along. Ideas are brewing for the next book that I'm going to write, but I'm not trying to do that while I've got all this other stuff going on. I'm just kind of letting it simmer, on the back burner. So doing that. And for the 4th, we didn't have any plans, but our neighborhood is not, there's no, like anybody can shoot off fireworks here, but around us, other places have firework bans. And I think everybody comes here. So they go on until like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I said, let's go up to the Woodlands this year. So we went up there and stayed in a hotel and they have a fireworks display and live music and all kinds of stuff. So we just spent that day up there, went to see the fireworks. It was a lot of fun. They have a little river walk, you can walk along. They had shops and stores and restaurants. And so we just kind of hung out there and had a little mini staycation. It was lots of fun.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the neighbors, they bought, it was like a poster sized package of Black Cat fireworks. They lined 3,500 Black Cat firecrackers. They lined them down the street because, they're connected. So they just lined them down the street. It took over 10 minutes for them to, they lit
all
one,
go off.
They lit one and just let it go off down that line of firecrackers. It took over 10 minutes for them.
That's crazy.
It was nuts. I mean, it's just like, it's like a war zone. We're in a little,
really is.
like half cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And so they people from both sides of the cul-de-sac come to that cul-de-sac to fire them off because, it's
an open area.
It's an open area.
There's a lot of trees around here. You need an open area. So
and
same thing.
There's not any traffic and stuff. And so, we get all of it. And Tug, who is afraid, I mean, he does not give one rip about fireworks. Thank God, because he's the nerviest dog I know. But if a leaf blows by outside, he will lose his ever-loving mind. Yeah. He is protecting us from the stray leaves that fly by. But fireworks, gunshots, stuff like that it doesn't faze him hardly at all. So,
we get that too. Like the ones that sound like almost like a bomb going off. We get those like really late in the day. So I was like, we're going to go. And they do have a fireworks ban up there. So you only have the planned ones, but we were in a hotel and we were up high, and it was very cool because once it got dark, you could see fireworks going off all over the city around us on the horizon, just everywhere. And I was like, oh, look, there's our neighborhood over there with all that fireworks going on. We had a great view. It was wonderful.
Oh, that's good. But far enough, far away. Yeah.
Yeah. So got a good night's sleep. I enjoyed it. It was great. So that's all we got this week, I think. Like our 4th of July entertainment.
Yeah.
So
mine was hair pulling over email issues, and then over 10 minutes of black cat firecrackers. But this interview is great, so we should probably get on to it.
Yes, here is Nicholas. Today we are really excited to have Nicholas Harvey here. Hi, Nicholas. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
We're great. We're so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you. We have a lot of stuff to get to, but let me read your bio first. A USA Today bestselling author, Nicholas Harvey's life has always been anything but ordinary. Race car driver, motorsports professional, adventure traveler, and dive master, and since 2020, a full-time novelist. Raised in England, Nick has dual US and UK citizenship and now lives nomadically wherever he and his amazing wife Cheryl choose to land for a few months. He is the author of the Nora Summer Suspense, Cat Cromwell Mystery, and A.J. Bailey Adventure Series, as well as multiple collaborations. So that is a great bio. I love it. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
It is. I don't think I knew about your motorsports background.
Yeah, I grew up in a racing family. My dad was involved in racing. He drove back in the 1960s and then worked for teams, and he worked in Formula One for many years. And so, my brother and I were just absorbed into racing, and that was our life. My dad shoved me in a go-kart when I was about 11, and I started racing karts, and I raced for the British national team, for the junior team for many years, raced all over Europe, and then got into cars, completely ran out of money almost instantly. So
I would imagine that's probably an occupational hazard in that.
Yeah.
It's not a working man sport. Back in the day, there was, there's a few that could make it through the ranks by getting support, but it was very hard, and it's still very hard. And so I went on to working for doing anything I could, working as a mechanic for teams to pay for stuff. I'd go racing, crash the car, then go working for 2 months to earn money to fix the car, then go race again. So
crazy. Yeah. Well, how did you get into writing?
I have always, I'm a weird person in many, many ways. So
I wasn't going to say it, but
I think most people know this by now. I'm very split between technical and analytical and creative, and I've sort of always been that way. So my last job in racing, when I left, I was basically the technical director for a large two-car NASCAR team. So in charge of 45 engineers. But on the creative side, I've always been into movies. I read a lot when I was a kid. And I always had this desire to write a novel. It was just a goal of mine. And I wrote some screenplays in my 20s, playing around when I first come to America. And nothing great, but it was a good exercise in learning what to do. But doing a complete novel always seemed really daunting. But it was a goal. And I had an idea, that needed another element figured out. And I thought about it for years. And finally, in 2017, I figured out the final part of the puzzle. And I'm like, well, I almost swore then. I kind of told myself, oh, darn, now you've got to write it. So I didn't have any more excuses. So when I was still full-time in racing, I was working in NASCAR, and I was traveling every week to the races. And I'd write on a plane. I'd write in a hotel room for a half an hour before we went to the track in the morning. I'd write for an hour at night when we got back. And I wrote the first novel back in 2017. So that's kind of where it came from. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, we're really, really cramping Nick's style right now, since we try to keep it
family friendly.
He's got a real potty mouth.
Well, and Doug and my podcast is not clean. So, but I'll do my best, guys. I will.
Yeah. We should mention it. Tell everybody about your podcast.
We're like the redheaded stepchild of your guys' wonderful show. We started quite a lot later than you, but it's called the Two Authors Podcast, just to hide it behind a weird name. And we're right now we're every 2 weeks, and we interview authors and people in the business. Jamie's been on the show. She was a wonderful guest. We loved having her on the show.
Thank you.
It's a growing little show.
It is. It's a fun show. Yeah, you've had some really big name authors on your show.
I don't know how we conned them into it.
Present company included, but
absolutely. Yeah, we've had some big names, which has been fantastic for us and really interesting.
Yeah.
And we're both indie authors, so we try and spend a lot of time focused on indie stuff. But then we've had quite a lot of trad authors come on, and then we try and focus on craft when we talk with them, because obviously they're not involved so much on the marketing side, but how they managed to what's their path, right? How did they get there? How did they get that deal? How did they get launch going? Right. But some of the craft stuff, Joseph Finder was amazing to talk to about craft. Sandra Brown was incredible and lovely lady, and very open about my writing technique.
Little side story on Sandra Brown. I know Sandra Brown. Her sister is one of my best friends.
Wow.
From Austin. And so I've known of her, and then we've met several times because my best friend's husband passed away almost 20 years ago now. And so it was, we were all in there together. Well, a few years ago, we went to this friend's wedding, her daughter's wedding, and our old pastor's wife was there. She's not old, but previous pastor's wife was there. And she came up to me and she said, I can't believe we have two authors here, you and Sandra. We're just it's such a, fancy time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot get Sandra Brown out of my DMs. I'm like, lady, leave me alone, please.
Yes, I'm used to walking into the bookstore and seeing your stuff right next to hers.
Yeah, all the time, Yeah.
They will be.
We'll put a link to your podcast in the show notes so people can find that, because I think that it's a good one, and it's always good to have more writing podcasts.
It is, absolutely.
Tell us, what is your definition of success?
I'm not very good at this because especially probably because of the motorsports background, which is very competitive. I'm very sort of driven and competitive, and so I'm never satisfied with myself. But I think what I've determined is, my wife and I, when we went Nomad back in 2019, we really made a big life change. We both had good, well-paying jobs, and we really downsized everything. And so we live very modestly now. And so success for me now is to be able to support my wife and I to do the nomadic travels that we want to do, and to live modestly. If I can accomplish that, for the next X number of years that I'm going to be writing, and I've now got a job that I don't think about retiring from, right? I don't want to ever stop writing. I'd like to write a little bit less than I'm writing right now and have more time to myself. But yeah, I'd say that's it.
I think that there's nothing wrong with being competitive. I think a lot of times it's looked down on, that, that's a bad trait to have, but it can really be a good driver and keep you going, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just if it gets out of control, right?
Yeah. I mean, there can be. It depends how you're competitive. If you're competitive by treading on the heads of others to get where you want to go, then that's not nice, and I don't like to be that way, and I hate to see that. And so, but having that drive to accomplish a little bit more is good. One of the things about the author business, especially the indie world that we're in, but I think it's the same for other authors too. You don't know what's coming. The peaks and valleys, and I mean, Jamie, you can attest to this. You've been very, very successful, and then life has dealt you some lemons, and it's hard to get it back up again, and you don't know what's coming next. So I don't feel like I'm I have learned over time that I'm not in an industry where I can relax. And I've just got to accept that. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep trying new things. It's ever evolving, and you don't know what's around the corner. So
Right. Yeah. Also, the moving the goalpost thing, that can be a con of being super competitive. And I am too. And it's okay to do it, but to not celebrate the victory before you move the goalpost is the danger, I think.
I think that's very, very true. It's to savor the wins, right?
Right.
It was one of the reasons I knew that my time in motorsport was coming to an end is when we won races. I felt more relief that we'd accomplished the job we were supposed to accomplish rather than the pleasure of getting that win, the real celebration of that joy of the achievement. And it's like, this is the shine has gone off of this for me. And racing is, for most people, they're watching it on telly or they, go to the races and enjoy it and stuff and view it from the outside and go, wow, that must be amazing inside. Ultimately, on the inside, it's just another business. It's just in a different environment. And it's a very dynamic business that gets a result far more often. You're not having quarterly sales meetings to see how you've done.
It's more like weekly.
You've got to pass or fail every week. And believe me, it's very much that way. You're a hero one week and a zero the next. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what do you wish you'd known about writing and craft?
Oh my God, everything. I knew nothing. I was a horrible student in school. I was racing at the time. I missed loads of it because we were traveling around going to races. So I missed chunks of time. And I was accidentally a half decent student, but I went to a very strict English, what's called a grammar school. Grammar school in America is for little kids. Grammar school is part of a system that used to be, it was secondary or grammar school. You took an exam when you were 11, and if you passed, you went to the grammar school. If you failed, you went to secondary. And they've kind of done away with it almost across the board now, and everything's comprehensive. But I went to, it was a good school, Royal Latin Grammar School in Buckingham. And it was everything you can imagine, old buildings, old teachers. And by osmosis, I accidentally got a really good education, despite me fighting it tooth and nail. So, but I really didn't come away with, I left when I was 16, which you can leave school at 16 after your O-levels in England. And I left and went straight to work in racing. So that's it. My education from there on was traveling the world and involved in racing. So I had a solid sort of base of English, but when it came to craft and writing, all I knew was storytelling. I'd been a natural storyteller my whole life. And that's when I wrote my first book. That's what came out in that first book. I was just telling a story. So I didn't understand so many things about, acts and beats and, where things should shift and change. I didn't even know anything about chapters, like how long the chapters should be. It just seemed like I'd write until I was done with that bit, and then I'd write the next bit. And they were all different.
That's what I did too. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I learned a lot. And I wrote it in 2017 and did nothing with it, right? So I'm still working full time, which is, if you knew now hang on, which way is it? If I knew then what I knew now. There we go.
Yeah.
So what I didn't know in 2017 was it was about the tail of the golden years for Kindle books, right?
It was.
So if I'd actually done something with it and marketed it in some way, shape, or form, then it would have been a different start to my career. But I didn't. I did nothing with it until 2019 when we decided to make our life change. And then I'm like, I'm going to give this writing thing a go. I really enjoyed writing that book. I'm going to try another one. And I had no clue. I had no clue what lay ahead.
Right.
But it sounds like you were a storyteller. So you knew about story, and it sounds like you'd always been very interested in creative things, even though you maybe didn't have the technical, like, oh, this is how I break my story into acts. It took me forever to figure that out about a mystery, because a lot of the advice is for like the hero's journey, and a mystery oftentimes is episodic. Like you have little things happen across the series. Isn't that you, right? Did you start with mystery? Is that what you started in?
Yeah, I did. It's a mystery adventure. And, at the time, I knew nothing. I didn't know what genre was. Genre to me was it's horror, romance, mystery, or there's a couple others, right? That's it. I didn't understand subgenre. So I just wrote this book, and I thought it was just a piece of literary work, right? Well, no, it didn't. It fell into it fell into nothing. Right. It fell into a subgenre sort of at the edge of. It's sort of at the edge of sea adventures. It's a dive boat operator in the Cayman Islands who grew up being told this story from World War II by her grandfather, who'd bounce her on his knee and tell her this old war story about a German submarine that came through the islands when he was stationed down there. And so it's in 3 timelines. It's the story from 1945 of the fellas on the U-boat, which involved the grandfather at that time in that timeline. The grandfather in like 1997 telling his young granddaughter the story, and then current time we've got AJ Bailey, and she's in the Cayman Islands, and now she finds a clue that it's a link to this story that she was told her whole life. So then they all start coming together.
And did you write the 3 timelines?
I did, yeah. And I've gone on in that series to write multiple timelines. That's probably that's got 3. I don't normally do that. Now it's just 2. But the second book didn't have dual timeline. And then I went back to it. And then I think I hopped back and forth a couple of times. But then now it's all I write is the dual timelines. And I absolutely love it. I'm 18 books in.
Wow.
And for that series. And it's like what it does for you when you write a series, you've got these characters that are recurring characters, and they're like family, right? And I love it. And for the readers that love that series, they are like family to them. They interact with me in that way, and which is great. But what you get to do is introduce this whole new slew of characters in a whole different environment. It's like you're writing another book, which keeps it really, really fresh. So I always look forward to diving back into a AJ Bailey book.
Amazing. I mean, that's pretty ambitious. 3 timelines in your first.
I didn't know, Jamie. I didn't know it was ambitious. I just did it.
Sometimes the story takes you places and you're like, okay, we're going here. I don't understand it, but we're doing it. And then you look back later and think, man, why did I do that? But obviously it worked out.
Yeah. And we entered into this sort of conversation about the genre and being in the edge of a genre, which is one of the things, it's one of the big things you've got to know or understand going in that I just didn't. So it opens with a scene in a storm with these Germans on a U-boat. Well, that series really appeals to female audience. If you want to appeal to a female audience, don't start a war movie with Germans on a submarine. So it was, when you look at, again, where it falls, it just doesn't hit down the center of any of the subgenres even. So it's turned out it's incredibly hard to market. And the big difference between that series and the spin-off series that I did, was just Nora Summer's series, which now with 8 books has more income than the AJ with 18 books, is because I pulled it closer towards the center of a genre. And I've been able to market it. And then the Cat Cromwell books, which just came out, the first one just over a week ago as we record this, and I'm releasing the first 3 a month apart. I hope I've hit down the center of the genre even more. I've got comps that I can market against. I can market against Alex Sigmore. I can market it, with Lisa Reagan and things like that. Right. Their readers will like this book. So that's good. Yeah. And I'm still writing what I want to write, which is key.
Yeah. Well, I think this would be a good point. One of our questions is, what about marketing? What do you wish you'd known about that? And we kind of talked about that a little bit, about being closer to the genre markers, I guess. But I feel like your books, each series is very well branded, because you've got the mystery, suspense, adventure, thriller. So how did you break that out? Was it all intentional? How do you do your marketing and your branding?
It was nothing about the first series was intentional.
As it often is, right?
It evolved, and it evolved as I evolved. So as I was learning what I was doing, I was 2019 was when it started. 2020 was when it really started. When we landed in one place, we'd done 6 months of touring around in the bus, kind of looking at all the places, that the national parks and stuff we wanted to see. We lost my father during that time, so there was a break for dealing with all of that. So in 2020, we landed in Key Largo, and we were looking to move to Cayman, and my wife was applying for jobs in Cayman, and we thought, well, we'll be here, and it's a great place to launch from, to fly out of Miami to go to interviews and stuff, which we did. We actually were there a week before, and then COVID hit. So that was it. We were basically stayed in the Keys for the next 2 years. And that's when I really started sitting down and writing and trying to learn all I could about it and market and what have you. So the big thing about you don't realize going in is marketing is it. It isn't part of it. It is it. It is, there's a lot of mediocre books doing really, really well. And that's not a slight on other authors, but it's the truth. There's a lot there's great books out there too, but there's a ton of great books that none of us know anything about because they're not being marketed. And it's about finding the channel that works. And it's a bunch of planets you got to align. There is no one golden, whatever it is,
golden ticket or whatever,
golden ticket, key egg, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, there isn't. There's everybody's doing it in a slightly different way. Everyone's path and journey is different. And that's one thing we learn and you guys learn doing this podcast and talking to so many people. That's one of the big eye openers for me is not one person that we've talked to has come about their career in exactly the same way.
No. Nick and I really know each other from Clubhouse, the morning Clubhouse group that we get on every morning. And in that group, you can really tell there are people, people just do it all different ways. There are people that have never run an ad, but their books have always done really well. And there are people that rely heavily on ads. And then there are people that, write one book a year, and there are people that write one book a week.
12 books a year.
So you don't really know. Yeah, so it's that's very obvious.
That's one thing, and shout out to all our friends in Clubhouse because it's a wonderful little community. It's really good. But that's one of the things that can really get you is the word count stuff.
Yeah.
When you start hearing the word count of some of these people, we were talking with Kevin McLaughlin, and it is insane how many words he can put down, and several people we've had on there, and it's really easy to get caught up in that. And you can tune things, you can build your environment to improve it. But I'm going to put out what I can put out, and I've established that. I know what it is. Right. And unless the world gets knocked off its axis, it's not going to vary that much. I know averaged over a longer period of time how much I can produce. And like this year, I know I am maxed what I can do. And I've had a bad habit of saying yes to things in the past. And I'm on a hard no pretty much at the moment of anything else that gets thrown my way. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Well, what are you glad you know now?
I think a part of what we just talked about, that everybody's path is different, and accepting that and not latching on. You can be a freaking golden retriever chasing 100 tennis balls if you're not careful, right? They've got to be, oh, darn, I need to be on TikTok. Oh, I need to be on whatever this platform is. I need to be running these ads over here, those ads. I need to be writing this many words. It'll drive you nuts, and it will dampen your abilities. The important thing, I think, is you've got to learn everything you can. Take a look at these things, but you've got to be able to evaluate and go, maybe later. No, that's not for me. Yeah. Or yes, I should put some focus time into that. Because if you try and do everything, you're like a dog with multiple, appendages.
Yeah, and it's just hard to you can't physically do everything, like mentally and physically. You just cannot. You'll just run yourself into the ground, and you'll be exhausted and probably not have accomplished much because you'll be so divided. It's really hard.
And you're it's not fun. It's not. There's no joy in it when you're just chasing things like that.
The great thing So the great thing that I have is my author brother and my podcast wife, Doug. He tries everything.
You just watch.
I just sit back and like, how about it, buddy? And then see if it works. I'm like, cool. I'll jump on your coattails.
Yes,
that's awesome. Yeah,
that is awesome.
Well, what do you still need to figure out?
Everything. I know nothing. Every day I get up, I'm like, I'm dumb. I'm not very smart in this business. You just can't rest. It's forever changing. I mean, right now we're in the midst of Amazon changing algorithms about rankings. They had a pre-order dropout for like 3 days the other week, right? They did a massive change to their ranking system about 4 weeks ago. They made a adjustment to that about a week, 10 days ago. It's always shifting. And so right now you're looking at, okay, launch strategies. What do I need to do differently now? They're dampening the spikes of launches. I've got to play this game a little differently. So Every time you think you know something, you have a Facebook ad that works, and I go, "Cool! This is the this is the headline. This is the image. It's great."
Right.
And you go run another one in a similar fashion, and it flops. You're like, "I don't know anything."
Right. Right. Or you have an ad and it's just going so well, and then you wake up one morning and it's just stopped working for
Yep,
no apparent reason. Yeah. Yeah.
yep, yep. It's
Yeah.
forever changing.
It
So
is.
keep evolving.
Yeah. Well, what's the most helpful advice you've gotten?
The most helpful advice. I thought you were going to ask me the unhelpful advice one. I was kind of ready for that.
Oh, well, no, it is unhelpful. Let me start over.
So
Thank
Jamie,
you.
how do you enjoy doing podcasts? Let me tell you, I'm surprised I haven't
Can
started
you
already.
tell
I'm on
we've
a
been on a
podcast.
break
Yeah.
for a month?
I'm used to doing these things where Doug and I are hosting, so I'm surprised I haven't just started asking you guys questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the most unhelpful advice you've ever
Jamie, that's a
received?
fabulous question.
Thank you. I've had it in my back pocket this whole time.
A good mate of mine read my book when it was unedited and it was really early on, and he said, "Yeah, it's good. It's kind of Clive Cussler, and but it needs sex in it. There's no sex in it. The guy, the main protagonist has to, shag someone, and it's like, well, I've got a female main protagonist, and she's actually has." That's not kind of her way.
Right.
And he goes, no, you got to have sex in it. So I close doors. There's interactions, but I'm terrible I would be terrible at writing that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's
red-faced.
very smart. I think that's
Very wise
smart.
to say,
Yes.
no, that's not going to be my character, and I don't want to go there, because it's a long series, and you'd have a lot of that in the series if you had decided in the beginning.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Very good. Well, I think that's a great answer, Nick. Thank you. Thank you.
What's the biggest change you've had to make in your thinking?
The old classic, I'm not my reader, I think is a big one.
Yeah.
Understanding that. We talked a lot about the marketing thing, really switching my brain to how key the marketing is, but I'm not my reader. I write books that I like reading, and I am not built to write to market. I don't feel I'm wired that way. There's, bless you if you are, and I'm not knocking it. It's like, go for it. But I need to really get something out of what I'm writing. I need to get an emotional return from it. So that's important to me. And so I write what I would like to read, and a story that would be compelling for me. And then I hope that it resounds with the readers as well. But it's tough. It's generally surprising when you find out what your reader demographic is. And like for me, it's older, it's retired people, which is the main reading audience for everybody. But there's a lot of genres that expand younger. And despite my first series, my AJ Bailey series, being based around scuba diving, it's really hard to market to that younger audience. It's a thin audience. So even those books, I tend to market to more mature folks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my son-in-law was looking at my ads and he was like, did you know that like 75% of your clicks come from people 65 and older? And I was like, yep, I do. That's my audience. And he was shocked. He couldn't believe it was that high. But if you were starting over today, what would you do differently?
Gosh, it's tinted glasses, right? Because we do know what we know now. So when you look back, it's like, you done whatever. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done all these things. Study genre, study audience, know who that this book is going to be presented to.
Right.
So as we touched on, I would have reworked the opening of that book. And maybe one day I will. It's called 12 Mile Bank. And maybe I'll go back and alter it. But I don't know how I would enter into it in a different way with the structure of the book and not have that scene. Because that scene would be okay if it was a little further in. It's actually a great scene. It's the inciting incident, right? So it's a really exciting scene where these guys go down in a submarine, and there's a group of them have to try and get out from the bottom of the ocean. So it's great that way. But I would go back and look at that And the other big thing was if I was starting over, I would consider a gender neutral pen name. So I've all three series of female protagonists. My co-write with Doug, I write the female protagonist part. I get asked all the time, how come, right? Why do you write from a female protagonist point of view? I think I've always been fascinated by strong women. My wife she wouldn't say this, but she's an amazingly strong woman. And I find that really compelling. Far more though. We've got reachers out there, right? We've got them all. Yeah. We've got all varieties of them. We got lots of them. So it really fascinated me, and that's why I write that way. So, but so I should be marketing to a larger female audience than male audience. Although I have a lot of male readers, it really is. And there's a lot of female readers who won't read female protagonists from a male.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
Rightly or wrongly, it's just a fact. It's and I've seen the reviews, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I think the feedback is I write a female protagonist well. I haven't had complaints that I don't. So, yeah, I probably would have considered maybe I'd be Nicola Harvey or something very, go with a neutral. I think it might have helped things. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I wanted to go back to the digital nomad thing. So people love the idea of that. If someone's interested in that, is there any advice you would give them? Anything you wish you'd known about that? And how do you, and I have a follow-up question, but answer that first.
Yeah. It's amazing. Okay. It is a really cool thing, but you need to, especially at our age, my age, I'm saying, my wife and I, it's make sure you're with a partner. If you're going into this with a partner, make sure if you're the people that take space, go on vacation separately and have a group of friends off to the side.
Maybe not the best idea, huh?
Living in a 300 square foot RV is not going to be for you. There's that side of it. Fortunately, there's if I could only be around one person for the rest of my life, it would be my wife. I love being around her. She tolerates me, which is how it works. And so that part of it is key. It's also, you can do it like writing. There's a million different ways you can do this. There's no one way. We sold our home and we went full time. We'd never owned an RV before. Our idea of camping was to climb to the top of a mountain, put up a little 2-man tent, stay in it overnight, and climb back down the mountain. So we'd never been in an RV before, and we got lucky in the fact that we kind of pinpointed a style of RV that we thought would work, and it actually worked really, really well for us. If you need an anchor and a brick and mortar that you can go back to, that's a big consideration to going fully nomadic. That you might need something. We didn't, and now we are going to have a base that we'll be in, but we still plan on spending 6 months traveling and being nomadic. So the other part of it that we've done over the last few, once COVID cleared and we started, and my wife got a fully remote gig, what we would do is go overseas, like down to the Caribbean, and we'd find a place through like Airbnb, try and contact them and say, hey, look, we're coming down for 3 months. Can we do a deal for 3 months? And we'd find these places to stay. And then we'd just go work there for 3 months. And that was our friend Trisha and her husband Alan are kind of heading into this path now. They just left Bonaire, the island, and they've got a little place in Scotland that they're staying in, but they're going to start doing this nomadic traveling that they've dipped a toe in before. And the one thing she and I talked about quite a bit is spending 3 months there is about the right amount. Because if you're working for it, like if you're retired and you're just swanning around and having a good time and going places, knock yourself out, go spend a month, whatever. But if you're working from there, it's different, right? So to get a real feel for the place, you're just going to be traveling, going and seeing the sites on weekends and stuff like that. And the other thing is when you go somewhere on holiday, You go for a week and you've saved up all this money and you're doing everything. You're eating out at all the places, you're doing all the trips, you're doing all this stuff, you're spending money like crazy. You can't do that when it's basically your existence, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you spread it out over this period of time. And we found at about the 6-week mark was where we found we were getting in the rhythm of where we were. We'd found the supermarkets, we'd found the spots to go to, the beach or what have you, and you get that rhythm going. So that was a big thing for us, was finding places to go for 3 months. So we leave after NINC. Actually, I'm going to NINC, and then right afterwards we fly to New Zealand. Our daughter and her husband are in New Zealand. We haven't seen them for several years, so we can't wait to see them. But we're going to go work from New Zealand and then hop across to Australia and work from Australia. So we're going to do a 3-month in a couple of locations down there.
Oh, how fun. That's
next big
amazing. Yeah. That's great.
And then I guess the other thing I was thinking is like almost everything we do is online, right? So it's easy to handle the business of writing, moving around, right?
Yeah, that was people say, what was the biggest challenge? Internet's the biggest challenge, especially when you're going places. The kind of places we wanted to go to were places out of the way. And so internet starts becoming a challenge. And in campgrounds and stuff, they all have internet, and it's all not very good. There's very few places that have good. So it was a struggle. You're trying to use your cell phone. If you have one of those old systems or contracts with a phone provider, cell provider that was truly unlimited, which means they don't throttle it, then they work great. But if they throttle, which all the new plans have a throttling on it, you run out of data like 5 days into the month, and they throttle it down and it gets real slow. So it becomes a problem. But we got a Starlink a few years back, and it was really good and getting less good. There's more people get them, and the bandwidth goes down and stuff like that. And then they charge you more. And then they have, yes, it's slowed down a bit, but you can pay more and get this next platform and do the normal deal that they do. So,
yeah, we got a Starlink too, just for connectivity during weather events, which we seem to have so many in Houston. I don't know why.
Sarah, wait a second. You're going full prepper. I listened to your show.
I know. That's
You've
what
got
I
the
said.
generator. You've got
I
cans
know,
of
we're good to
beans at the
survive.
Starlink, as long as it's stuff. Yeah.
But I was surprised when we researched the Starlink, how many people use them for camping. They're like, I want my Starlink so I'll have good internet at the campgrounds. I was like, I never would have thought that.
Yeah.
And you start picking campground spots based on tree coverage, because it has to have a clear
Oh,
side.
wow.
Yeah.
Didn't think about that. That's interesting. Well, you've mentioned you've collaborated. Well, you collaborate on your podcast, and you and Doug collaborate in writing. What do you wish you'd known about collaborations?
Yeah, I've done a few. Doug, the writing with Doug and I is a bad example of the challenges of co-writing with someone, because we get along. We're completely different, and we get along super, super well, and it's been so easy and so much fun writing with Doug. I've done a few others with Tropical Authors Group. Doug and I just did a presentation for Outlier Writing University, DP Lyle and Kathleen site that they have, which is really good. Got some great content on there. We just did a presentation, Doug and I did, for that, about writing collaborations, and laid out a whole thing about here are the pitfalls. Go in with your eyes open. It's like anything else, doing anything, especially if it's a friend or someone that you've become friends with, and you go in. It's like anything else. It's a good way of not being friends at the end of it if you're not careful. So lay out the parameters going in, lay out the expectations. There's a lot of things that come on the backside of it. So somebody has to format it. We're going to do the cover, right? We're going to market it. Who's going to market it? Who's going to publish it? Because now you've got to split the revenue, unless you do it through like D&D and have them split it, which means giving them a cut. If you're going like KU, like we did, someone has to publish it. Then someone has to do all that bookkeeping and everything that goes with it. So just go in with your eyes open, make sure you've dotted all the I's, crossed the T's, and you know what the expectations are and what the split is. Doug and I do a 50-50 split. That's not always the way it's done, or expected.
Right. Yeah. And get it in writing.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
and
great.
Do what we say, not what we do, because Doug and I don't have any of that. We just did it.
Well, because
a lot of times things start out that way.
I have a collab too that we don't have anything in writing, and I have tried, and the other person doesn't really want to. I don't really know why, but the concern is if one of you dies, like who has the rights then?
Yeah. What
And,
happens
you know, yeah.
And you really
But-
need something in writing then if you're
Yeah,
trying
you
to
do.
make any changes at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so good. So good to
has.
talk to you. What's the best thing you've done to set yourself up for success?
I think work hard and be relentless.
Yeah.
I think my dad had a great work ethic. And when I look back, it's like, darn, I was lazy when I was a kid, you know? And they let me get away with it, I guess. But I got a fantastic example from my dad and how hard he works. And I look at my brother and he's got the same kind of work ethic. And I think, again, by osmosis, accidentally, I kind of got some of that. And so I'm kind of like a bulldog. I used to play tennis years ago with a good friend of mine, a racing friend of mine. And he said, you're a bulldog. You never give up. You just let it go. Go on to the next point. You're not going to get it. I'm like laying on the floor with a racket wrapped around my head because I tried to get there. I refused to give up. And you get a lot of blows in this business. And Jamie, you know this very well. It's there's a lot of things kind of knock you down. Yeah. And so with support and with a good group around you, you get back up. And I'm just, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to, I've brought this to a certain level where I can feed Cheryl and and we can basically do the things we want to. And now I want to take it a little bit further than that. And then the goal will be to be able to back off the throttle just a little bit and be able to enjoy it more. But yeah, I think that's it. Work hard, be relentless.
Love that. Love that. Well, tell everyone where they can find out more about you, your podcast, all those things, your books.
Right. Yeah, thank you. HarveyBooks.com is the website, and you can kind of find just about everything on there. The Two Authors podcast is available on everywhere that podcasts stream, all the good stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm Amazon exclusive, so I'm in KU with everything that I put out there, and I'm on Audible. So you can find me there. Just search for my name, Nicholas Harvey, and you'll stumble across me.
All right. Very good.
Terrific.
Very good.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys. This is really an honor and a pleasure to be on with you guys.
It's been great. Thank you for jumping on and doing it with us. We appreciate it very much.
We will have all those links in the show notes, and you can find those at wishidknownsowriters.com. And if you want to support the podcast, you can do that at the same place. And we will see everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye.